You really should give up the profession entirely, as a matter of principle.
For 3 decades, Richard Boone kept silent about the role that made him a household name, but nearly destroyed him behind the scenes. He was a star, a leading man, but he was also drowning in alcoholism, creative battles, and the weight of an industry that refused to see him beyond the character he played. Now, the dark truth emerges, the addiction that almost ended his life, the dream project NBC sabotaged, and the reason he fled Hollywood for Hawaii, never looking back. Born on June 18, 1917, in Los Angeles, Boone seemed destined for success. His father, Kirk Etna Boone, was a powerful corporate lawyer, while his mother, Cecile Lillian Beckerman, a singer with Russian Jewish roots, instilled in him a love for the arts. Their home was a blend of privilege and culture, but Boone wasn't drawn to the life of an entertainer. Not yet. He was a tough kid, excelling in academics and sports. Football became his passion at Hoover High School in Glendale, where he played as an offensive guard, developing the grit and resilience that would later define his acting career. But there was always something restless about him. Even in college at Stanford, where he was expected to follow a conventional path, he felt trapped. In 1937, he dropped out, searching for something real, something that mattered. He found himself in the brutal world of oil rigging, then in the disciplined, bruising sport of boxing. Yet, it wasn't enough. Then came World War II. Boone enlisted in the U.S. Navy in 1941, becoming a tail gunner on TBM Avenger torpedo bombers. He spent 4 years in the Pacific, facing death daily. It changed him, hardened him, but also gave him a profound perspective on life. When he returned, he had to start over. The GI Bill opened a door he never expected: acting. He joined the prestigious Actors Studio in New York, training under Sanford Meisner. He studied movement with Martha Graham. He learned that acting wasn't about reciting lines. It was about living in the moment. Broadway was his proving ground. His 1947 debut in Medea was a minor role, but sharing the stage with greats like Judith Anderson shaped him. By 1950, Hollywood came calling. He signed a 7-year contract with 20th Century Fox, making his film debut in Halls of Montezuma, 1951, a World War II drama. But Boone wasn't just another actor with a rugged face and a deep voice. He brought intensity and depth that made every role unforgettable. Then came The Robe, 1953, where he played Pontius Pilate. It was brief, but Boone's portrayal was chilling. In one moment, after symbolically washing his hands of responsibility for Jesus' fate, Pilate unconsciously asks for water again. A subtle, haunting detail that Boone infused with meaning. That was his power, turning even small roles into something profound. His chilling performance in Vicky, 1953, proved he wasn't just a character actor. He was something more. As Lieutenant Ed Cornell, a detective obsessed with a murdered model, Boone brought a psychological darkness to the screen that made audiences uneasy. His apartment, lined with photographs of the dead woman, wasn't just a set piece. It was a terrifying glimpse into a mind unraveling. Then came television, and the role that should have solidified his legacy but nearly destroyed him. Medic, 1954 to 1956, was groundbreaking, a raw and realistic medical drama that dared to tackle taboo topics. Boone, as Dr. Conrad Steiner, was both the lead and the show's narrator. He gave it weight, authenticity, and heart. Episodes covered mental illness, infertility, even the devastating effects of atomic bomb attacks. This was television at its most fearless, long before ER and Grey's Anatomy dared to go there. But Boone wasn't just a performer, he was a perfectionist, and television, with its breakneck production schedules and network interference, frustrated him. NBC canceled an episode featuring a C-section birth, fearing it was too controversial. Boone fought for realism, but he was up against an industry more focused on playing it safe. When Medic ended, Boone sought more control. He found it with Have Gun, Will Travel, where he not only starred as the cultured yet deadly paladin, but also directed multiple episodes. It was a rare opportunity for an actor to shape his own narrative. Yet, Behind the scenes, the pressure mounted. Richard Boone's impact on television was undeniable, but behind the scenes, his career was a battlefield. While Paladin in Have Gun, Will Travel cemented him as an icon, Boone wrestled with the weight of that role. His presence was magnetic, commanding on screen, haunted off it. Hollywood had given him fame, but it had also drained him. By the time the series ended in 1963, he was desperate to break free. He created The Richard Boone Show, an ambitious project where he could explore different characters each week. It was a bold move in an industry that thrived on repetition. But Hollywood wasn't ready for his vision. Despite critical acclaim and even a Golden Globe win, the show was unceremoniously canceled after just one season. Boone didn't even get the courtesy of a direct phone call. He found out, like everyone else, and it left him furious. He had spent years fighting for creative control, only to be reminded that Hollywood valued profit over artistry. The industry that once embraced him now seemed indifferent. Disillusioned, he packed his bags and left, heading to Hawaii in search of something real. He wasn't just retreating, he was building. He pushed for productions like Hawaii 5-0 to be shot entirely on location, convinced that the islands could be a new hub for filmmaking. He even attempted to launch his own show, Kona Coast, but the networks weren't interested. Instead, they went with Hawaii 5-0, leaving Boone's dream to fade into obscurity. Despite his departure from the Hollywood machine, Boone couldn't fully escape its grasp. Roles still found him, but they were fewer and farther between. In Hombre, 1967, he delivered one of his finest performances, going toe-to-toe with Paul Newman in a brutal, gripping Western. Critics praised his work, but the genre that had once been his playground was dying. Audiences were moving on. By 1971, he returned to the mainland, accepting roles where he could. His final attempt at television stardom came with Heck Ramsey, a show about an aging lawman struggling to adapt to modern crime solving. It lasted 2 seasons. Hollywood had moved on, and Boone knew it. But his struggles weren't just professional, they were personal too. Boone had always carried his demons, and over time, they took their toll. His battle with alcoholism wasn't just a rumor, it was an open secret. Some said it started during his Navy years in World War II, a way to dull the memories of war. Others believed Hollywood's relentless cycle of typecasting and rejection drove him deeper into the bottle. Either way, it consumed him. By the mid-1970s, it was affecting his work. During the filming of God's Gun, 1976, he reportedly walked off set before recording his dialogue. The studio had to dub his lines with another actor. It was a far cry from the man who once commanded the screen with just his presence. Even his opportunities slipped away. In 1973, Paul Newman personally wanted Boone for the role of Doyle Lonigan in The Sting. It was the kind of part that could have redefined his career, but Boone turned it down. Some say he had made enough money from Have Gun, Will Travel, and didn't need it. Others suspect his drinking made commitment impossible. Whatever the reason, the role went to Robert Shaw, and The Sting became one of the biggest hits of the decade. Boone's chance at a late career resurgence vanished. His health deteriorated rapidly. A lifelong heavy smoker, Boone reportedly went through up to 100 cigarettes a day. Years of smoking and drinking caught up with him when he was diagnosed with throat cancer. But in a decision that stunned many, he refused medical treatment. He chose instead to live out his final years in seclusion, away from the cameras, away from the industry that had both made and broken him. On January 10, 1981, Richard Boone passed away at his home in St. Augustine, Florida. He was 63. His ashes were scattered in the Pacific, a quiet goodbye to the place that had given him a semblance of peace. Boone's life was a storm of talent, rebellion, and tragedy. He had the potential to be one of Hollywood's greatest, but his demons kept pulling him under, and yet his legacy endures. Have Gun. Will Travel remains one of television's most intelligent and compelling westerns, and Boone's portrayal of Paladin continues to captivate new generations. He wasn't just another cowboy hero, he was a man of intellect, of depth, of contradictions. Hollywood may have moved on, but Richard Boone left a mark that will never fade.